fourth grade. Today we are going to be dividing by one-digit numbers. So it's the day you've all been waiting for. We are jumping into long division. So let's rock and roll. Okay, before we jump into long division though, I want to do a quick review of looking at a multiplication problem. So you're probably used to seeing multiplication problems a little bit more like this, right? 81 with the division symbol divided by 3 equals, and then we have our quotient or our answer right here. Well, for long division, we have to set it up a little bit differently, okay, in order for you to divide each place value one at a time. So I call this the little house, and your dividend, or the number that you're dividing, your big whole number, goes inside the house, okay? And remember that we are trying to break 81 into equal groups, or as close to equal as possible. Sometimes we have a remainder, right? So that number right here is our divisor, and we're dividing 81 by 3. So we're trying to put 81 into 3 equal groups. Your divisor tells you how many groups you're breaking your number into, okay? And then on top of the house, your answer goes, right on top of these place values, okay? This is called your quotient. So this is where you'll see how many in each group, or your answer, okay? So in order to help you remember the steps to division, I've created a little saying. Actually, I didn't create it. I learned it from another teacher. But there's a little saying to help you remember the steps, okay? And it's kind of silly, but I promise you'll remember it. The saying is, does McDonald's serve cheeseburgers? And the cool thing about long division is that the steps never change. They always go in this exact same order, and they keep repeating until you have finished the problem, okay? So the steps are: step 1, divide; step 2, multiply; step 3, subtract; step 4, check and compare; and step 5 is to bring down. And that's all going to make a lot more sense in a few minutes, okay? But the reason that we say, does McDonald's serve cheeseburgers, is because the D in McDonald's reminds us to divide first. The M reminds us to multiply. The S reminds us to subtract. The C, or the CH, reminds us to check and compare. And the B in burgers reminds us to bring the next number down. So your steps are always going to go in this order, and as soon as you get to the last step, you start over from the beginning until your problem is done, okay? Does McDonald's sell cheeseburgers? We're going to write that on every assignment. So, our first problem, 81 divided by 3. Long division is a little bit different because in most problems we always start with the smallest place value, right? We start in the ones place and move on to the tens and the hundreds. But division's a little bit different because when you're dividing your dividend, you start with the greatest place value. And you break that number apart first, and then you move on to the next greatest and the next greatest, and finally the ones place, okay? So that's a little bit different. So in this case, 81, our dividend is 81, and the greatest place value is the tens place, okay? So we're first going to try to break apart these 8 tens into 3 equal groups. So this is where knowing your fast facts is really important, okay? So you're going to ask yourself, okay, how many times is 8 divided by 3? Well, I know that 3 doesn't go into 8 evenly. 3 times nothing equals 8. But we're going to get as close as we can to 8 without going over, okay? So in your head, you should be thinking about your fast facts, thinking, okay, I know 3 times 1 is 3. So it could go in once, but I think that's too low. It's not close enough. So then I'm going to say, okay, I know 3 times 2 is 6. So 3 could go in 2 times, right? And then 3 times 3 is 9. That's too much. I don't have 9. I only have 8. So 3 can go into 8 2 times. And you're going to have a little bit left over. And that's what we're going to do in our next step. So we've completed step 1, which is divide. We divided 8 by 3, which equals 2. Okay, we have 2. Our next step is to multiply. Okay, and so we're going to figure out what we have left over from 8 divided by 3 by multiplying. So you take this number up at the top that we just put up into our quotient, right above the tens place, and you're going to multiply it by the divisor. So you're going to say 2 times 3 is 6. And so you write that number directly below the 8 right here. Okay, so we divided 8 by 3. We've multiplied, 2 times 3 is 6. Our next step is to subtract. So I'm going to put a line right here with my subtraction symbol, and I'm going to subtract 8 minus 6, and my answer is 2. Okay, so 3 goes into 8 2 times with 2 left over. Okay, so we've done step 1, 2, and 3. Stick with me. I know it seems like a lot, but you're doing great. So our next step is to check and compare. So we have this nice line right here, and guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to add another line, and I'm going to create a new house. Okay, and I'm now going to check and see if I can divide this leftover 2. Can I divide it by 3? So that's what I mean by check and compare. I'm going to compare. Well, when I'm comparing, I know that 3 is greater than 2. So 2 cannot be divided by 3. Okay, so I've just checked and compared. So my next step is to bring down. And this digit right here is the digit that I'm going to bring down. Okay, so now in my house, in my new house, I have 21. And I've done all 5 steps, so I'm going to start over from the beginning. Okay, and I'm going to divide again. And I have this lovely new division problem to help me. So again, I'm going to start with, okay, can 3 go into 2? Nope, it cannot. So I need to ask myself, how many times can 3 go into 21? All right, so since I know all of my fast facts, I've listed them over here so it's a little bit more visual for you, but since I know them in my head, I know 3 times 7 equals 21. So 3 can go into 3 can go into 21 exactly 7 times. So I'm going to put that 7 up here in my ones place, okay, up in the quotient because it's part of my answer. So again, I did step 1 again. I said 21 divided by 3 equals 7, okay? Now I'm on to my step 2, my multiplying again. I'm going to multiply 7 times this 3 right here. 7 times 3, I know, is 21, right? So I write 21 directly underneath, and my next step is to subtract. So I'm going to subtract 21 minus 21, which equals 0, okay? Well, I'm going to create my new house, and I'm going to check and compare. Can 3 go into 0? No, it cannot. 3 is greater than 0. We cannot do that. And there are no other numbers to bring down. So since I have 0 left, my problem is done. 3 goes into 81 exactly 27 times. Whoops. So now we know that 81 divided by 3 is 27. Congratulations, you just did your first long division problem. Wasn't that fun? Okay, let's do another one. So this is just a little mini challenge for you really quickly. You can pause the video and try to remind yourself, okay, which is the dividend, which is the divisor, which is the quotient. Okay, so pause the video and write it down. All right. Now we have our next problem, 64 divided by 3, and we're going to see those exact same steps every single time, and we're going to go through them every single time. They're going to become very familiar to you, okay? So remember with division, you start with the largest place value. So again, we're looking at the tens place, and you're going to ask yourself, what is 6 divided by 3? Okay, well, hopefully in your head you're saying, oh, well, that's easy. I know that 2 times 3 equals 6. So 3 times 2 equals 6, or 6 divided by 3 equals 2. So I put my 2 up in my quotient, all right? And now I'm already done with step 1. I'm ready to multiply. Step 2. Do you remember what we multiply? We multiply this number times this number. So 2 times 3 equals 6. Okay? So I've done step 1, I've done step 2, step 3, I'm going to subtract. So I draw my line right here with my subtraction symbol, and I'm going to subtract 6 minus 6, which is 0. Okay? I've done step 1, 2, and 3. My next step is to check and compare. So I'm going to draw a new line And I'm now going to check if this 3, the same 3, can go into 0. And I compare. Well, I know that 0 is less than 3, or 3 is greater than 0. So you cannot divide 0 by 3. So we've done step 4. We now have to bring down. Okay, our problem is not done. Even though we have a 0 here, we haven't dealt with the number in the ones place. So we need to bring that number down. And we now have 4. Okay, so we've done step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We are going to start over at the beginning with division. And we have this lovely new house with a new division problem, right? So now we can ask ourselves, what's 4 divided by 3? Well, hopefully we all know that 3 times 1 is 3, and 3 times 2 is 6. So it can't go in 2 times. It can only go into 4 once. So we put that 1 up here in the quotient. Okay, so we've divided. What do we do next? We multiply. 1 times 3 is 3. And we write it down right here. Okay, next step, subtract. 4 minus 3 is 1. Okay, so now I'm going to check and compare. I'm going to make a new division problem. And I'm going to ask myself, what's 1 divided by 3? Well, that's actually impossible, right? Because 3 is greater than 1. And so I'm supposed to bring down, but guess what? I don't have any more numbers to bring down. So this 1 right here is a leftover number, and it's called a remainder. So that means that 64 divided by 3 is 21 with 1 left over, or 1 remaining. So up here we would write an R for remainder, 1. So 64 divided by 3 equals 21 with a remainder of 1, with 1 left over, because the groups are not perfectly equal. You want to see one more? If you're done, you can go ahead and pause the video. If you want to see one more example, go ahead and stick with me. So sometimes I don't feel like writing the entire, all of the words, does McDonald's sell cheeseburgers? And so I just write these letters at the top to remind myself of my steps, right? Because I want to have my steps up there so that I don't get lost, because there are so many steps in our long division problems. So I just write DMSCB, does McDonald's sell cheeseburgers? And I also like to draw my little symbols to keep me on track, okay? So that's something that you may decide to do later on for yourself, okay? So step 1 is to divide. We're going to ask ourselves, what's 2 divided by 5? Well, we can't do 2 divided by 5, okay? So I'm going to put an X right here to hold the place value, okay? So that you don't accidentally write a number up in the quotient later. So now we need to look at the first 2 digits. And you're going to ask yourself, okay, well, how many times can 5 go into 22? I want to get as close to 22 as possible without going over. So you need to think about your fast facts. And it's okay if you want to write them down to help you. I'm a very visual person, so I like to write them down. So I'm thinking, all right, I want to get as close to 22 as possible without going over. All right, well, 5 times 3, 15. Close, but a little low. 5 times 4 is 20. Ooh, okay, so 5 can go into 22 at least 4 times. 5 times 5 is 25. That's too large. That's too big. Okay, so I know that 5 can go into 22 4 times. So I've done step 1. I've divided. Now I multiply. We know that 5 doesn't go into 22 an equal amount of times, but it can go in 4 times, and you're going to have some left over, right? So 4 times 5 is 20. So I write that directly under my 22. And now I go to my next step, which is to subtract. 22 minus 20 is 2, right? That should be mental math for us. So now I'm going to compare and check. I'm going to make my new house, and I'm going to compare and check. Can 5 go into 2? Nope, it cannot. And I look to bring down another number, but guess what? There's no other numbers to bring down. So that means that this 2 right here is my remainder. So 22 divided by 5 is 4 with 2 left over. Okay, great job, 4th grade. Thanks for sticking with me. You are going to rock long division.